This is your prime time forecast for East Alabama and West Georgia from Dr. Don's Weather. Dr. Don's Weather is made possible by the Randolph County Commission, East Alabama Waste, Southern Auction Solutions, Genesis Weight Clinic, Jimmy Stevens Construction, Anchor Roofing, the Town of Wadley, Auction 431 South, the Salem Auction House and Bama Diesel Repair. From the Alpha Weather Center, powered by Fincher Fence, Estate Masters, Boondocks Barbecue and Creamery, Southern Union State Community College and the venue at 5 Points Farms, here's Dr. Don.
Well, good morning, East Alabama and West Georgia. Welcome to your Tuesday. Lots of you get to stay home again today and tomorrow because of the threat of winter weather. We're going to tell you all about it with the absolute latest data from the National Weather Service coming up in this morning's edition of your primetime forecast for Tuesday, January 21st, 2025 on Dr. Don's Weather. Brought to you by Genesis Weight Clinic on Main Street in downtown Roanoke. Check them out online, genesisweightclinic.com, or give Melissa a call at 334-863-LOSS. That is 5677. And get your ducks in a row with Dukas. Jamie Dukas at 256-831-7770. You can find a link to Genesis Weight Clinic and Alpha Insurance at the top of this video on Facebook, at the bottom of the video on YouTube. Well, let's get into it this morning. It is very, very cold with temperatures ranging from 22 degrees in Birmingham this morning to 25 in Anniston, 22 and 5 Points. It's 23 in LaGrange. Wind chill factors are running in the mid to low teens across most of East Alabama and West Georgia. Radar returns this morning are showing snow falling across the northeast Georgia mountains, southwest, across Atlanta, across all of East Alabama and West Georgia, back into central Alabama, southwest Alabama, Mississippi, Louisiana, and Texas. However, and this is a big however, and this is going to have a lot to do with whether you see snow today or not. It is so incredibly dry in the upper levels of the atmosphere. Most of that snow I just told you about is not making it to the ground. Now, some of you are getting up this morning, you're looking at the weather app on your phone, you're looking at the radar, and it's showing a lot of snow out there, and you're scratching your head because you're looking out the window and you don't see anything. Well, that's because the snow is evaporating in the upper levels of the atmosphere, and that's going to be a huge caveat in today's weather forecast. Now, for instance, at 5 Points this morning, currently at our weather station there at the venue at 5 Points Farms, the temperature is 22 degrees with 50% humidity. All right, so here comes some Weather 101. The humidity needs to be near 100%, or at least above 75%. The humidity is the measurement of the amount of moisture in the atmosphere. So at 50% humidity, most likely we're not going to get snow on the ground because the atmosphere is just absorbing that moisture as the snow falls through the clouds. So we need to get that humidity level much higher than 50%, at least 75 or 80%, preferably close to 100% to get good snow. All right, so then the next factor is the dew point. Currently, the dew point is at 6 degrees at 5 Points. It needs to be closer to the temperature. So if the temperature is 22, we need to get that dew point up there at least into the mid to upper teens. So we got a little ways to go on the dew point. It needs to be a degree or two below the actual air temperature, really, to get good snow. And then there's one more factor. It's called the wet bulb. Currently, the wet bulb at 5 Points is 19. It must be at or below 27 degrees. So the wet bulb is where it needs to be. We need to get, though, the dew point that needs to come up, get closer to the temperature, and we need that humidity level to come up as well. So if we start to see humidity levels come up into the 90% range, then you can start looking for snow actually making it to the ground this morning. Now, Montgomery has reported a few flakes in the past hour or so, though there's no accumulation down there. We got to go all the way back into Louisiana, around Baton Rouge, before we start to see snow actually making it to the ground with any consistency. That will slowly move to the east and northeast as we go throughout the morning hours. And if we're going to get snow across East Alabama and West Georgia, it's likely going to be after 11 a.m., noon, 1 p.m. this afternoon. So a winter weather advisory is in effect for most of East Alabama and West Georgia this morning for the possibility of light dusting up to around 1 inch of snow. Now, the National Weather Service did add another tier of counties to the north to get you up there to the I-20 corridor during the early morning hours, and that was simply a course of least regret preemptive strike. Not because we're expecting a lot of snow up across the I-20 corridor, but just to be on the safe side, because in this type of setup today, it's not going to take much snow at all to cause problems out there on the roadways because the infrastructure is already frozen. So just to protect that I-20 corridor, the National Weather Service in Birmingham has bumped that winter weather advisory one tier of counties to the north to include Cleburne, Calhoun, Talladega, and Shelby counties for that possibility of a light dusting. Now, if you go to the south, we're talking in our coverage area across East Alabama and West Georgia. Lee County, Alabama, and Harris County, Georgia, is under a winter storm warning for snow accumulations of up to 2 inches. I think Lee and Harris is more likely in that 1 to 1.5 inch category. But understand, there is a winter storm warning down there in those counties, and from those counties south all the way to the Gulf of America, we have winter storm warnings in effect this morning. Confidence for heavier snowfall amounts clearly lies to the south, but that confidence decreases the further north you go. And that is because of that humidity level and the dry air that is draped across North Alabama and North Georgia. You're going to see echo returns on radar across North Alabama and North Georgia. We're talking north of the I-20 corridor all day long. But odds of any of it making it to the ground in North Alabama and extreme North Georgia, especially up here in the mountains, is slim to none. I mean, we can't completely rule it out, but I got to tell you, we got a long way to go to moisten up that column before we can get any of that precipitation to the ground. Now, any snow that does fall, regardless of where you are, is going to stick. It's going to stick immediately because the ground is frozen solid. So be mindful of that in the event it does start snowing in your particular location. All right, let's take a look at some of the different graphics we have out there this morning. The first thing I want to show you is the graphic that shows all the winter storm winter storm warnings and weather advisories. All of those pink counties you see in Alabama, Georgia, even back toward Mississippi and Louisiana, that's the winter storm warning. And again, in basically along the I-85 corridor and south in the state of Alabama, in Georgia, I-85 up to maybe South Atlanta, and then south, the entire southern half, middle and southern Georgia under a winter storm warning. And the thing that makes this graphic just stick out like a sore thumb are all of those northwest and north Florida counties that are under winter storm warnings down there this morning. I mean, we're talking maybe 4 to 5 inches of snow in places like Pensacola, Fort Walton Beach, Destin, all the way down to Panama City, Apalachicola, even around toward Perry, Florida, which is where the hurricane came on shore about 4 months ago that caused so much damage. Over toward Jacksonville, we may be looking at 3 to 4 inches of snow. Just incredible stuff there. And even on the Alabama Gulf Coast, we're talking about Orange Beach, Gulf Shores, back over toward Dauphin Island, Fort Morgan, Mobile, Baldwin County, 2 to 3 inches of snow possible there. And southwest Alabama could see 2 to 3 inches of snow, and southern Mississippi back into Louisiana, all the way down to New Orleans under a winter storm warning this morning. Just craziness right there. And then you look at those bluish colored counties to the north. That's the winter weather advisory. And in those areas, up to 1 inch of snow possible. In most locations, we're likely looking at a dusting to a tenth, maybe a half inch. The further north you go, the lower those amounts are going to be. But even in those areas, folks, and we're talking about the I-20 corridor down to about the I-85 corridor in Alabama and Georgia, even in those areas, it is not going to take much to cause a problem out there on the roadways. Even a tenth to a half inch of snow, travel is going to become very treacherous out there. So keep all of that in mind as we go into the afternoon. Again, I wouldn't expect any issues before noon in those weather advisory counties of Alabama and Georgia. So here are the snow amounts. This is the latest information from one of the more trusted models. And you can see that 2 to 3 inch area across South Alabama. Dothan, Albany, 2 to 3 inches. Enterprise, Alabama, 2 to 3 inches. Monroeville, Alabama, 2 to 3 inches. Stretching back into Mobile, across the Mississippi Gulf Coast, and even down into New Orleans. There could be some spots there along the I-10 corridor in Louisiana that could see 3 to 6 inches of snow pile up down there this morning. From that area, from about Demopolis back over to Montgomery, over to Valley, West Point, and there's going to be an extremely fine line there between the more moderate snow and the lighter totals. But in that area, we're talking about maybe up to 1 inch of snow. And then when you get up into Randolph County, back over toward Ashland and Clay, and then to the east, we're talking over toward Franklin, probably less than an inch of snow. We're likely looking at a dusting up to an inch. There could be some pockets of 3/4 inch snow totals, but generally speaking, less than an inch of snow across Talladega, Clay, Randolph, Hurd, and even down into Chambers and back over toward Tallapoosa and Coosa. Probably less than 1 inch of snow. And then along that I-20 corridor from Birmingham to Atlanta, we're talking maybe a dusting, and that's a big, huge question mark. I'm not sure we get the moisture. I'm not sure we get the air moistened up enough to get anything at all between Birmingham and Atlanta, but it is possible. Later on this afternoon, it would probably be after 4 or 5 o'clock this afternoon before we see anything along the I-20 corridor. In the north of I-20, we're just not expecting much of anything. Maybe a flurry up here in northeast Georgia, but that's about it. And I really don't anticipate any travel problems. The further north you go, north of I-20, I think it's just going to be a cloudy, cold, raw day, maybe with a flurry later on this afternoon. So here are the impacts that are expected today across Alabama and Georgia. And that graphic there, I think, is confusing people. That graphic is the winter weather advisory and the winter storm warning. It has nothing to do with totals. So snowfall up to 3 inches is possible in the warning area. That's the pink counties, though I think closer to 2 inches is more like it. Even light snow accumulation could cause hazardous travel conditions due to very cold infrastructure currently already in place. So the hazards today, and the further south you go, the more possible this is going to be dangerous travel conditions, closures and disruptions to infrastructure. Now, the best thing you can do is stay up to date on the latest local information from your county government and your local National Weather Service office as we go throughout the day. I know a lot of folks across East Alabama and West Georgia are going to go to work today as usual, and then the idea is if they start to see snow falling, they're going to send everybody home. Now, there's nothing wrong with that idea, but I encourage you to find someone that is 50 to 100 miles south or southwest of you that you know. So if you live or work in Randolph County, find somebody you know down there in Montgomery and ask them to call you the minute it starts snowing in Montgomery. And so when they place that call to you up in Randolph County and say, hey, we got snow coming down, it's beginning to stick here in Montgomery, that's when it's time for you folks in Randolph County to go home. And that same theory would apply to folks in any of our East Alabama or West Georgia counties. If you're down in Lafayette, Alabama, and you're at work and you're in charge of your employees, look down there, maybe Lowndes County or maybe a little further south down there around Greenville. Find somebody you know down there. Everybody's got contacts everywhere. Call them and say, hey, look, how about giving me a phone call when the snow starts sticking down there? That gives you a good couple of hours to get your people home and get them safe, because the fear here is, you'll remember 2014 in Atlanta when we just went into a flash freeze. The infrastructure is already sub 32. So any snow or even ice pellets that fall from the sky today are going to stick on contact. It's not gonna thaw out. It's going to be immediately frozen. So if we were to get sudden, moderate snowfall anywhere across East Alabama and West Georgia, then you're only looking at 15 or 20 minutes, and we got a problem. So find someone you know that lives to the south and southwest of you and ask them to call you. And you want to go multiple counties to the south and southwest, at least 2 or 3. That will help keep everybody safe today, especially for those of you who are going to go in and work this morning with the idea of early release. Of course, the schools are already out. They called it off, so that's a good thing. We don't have to worry about the kiddos. All right, so we do have some warming centers in Randolph County that are providing a place for you to get warm if you need it. The Roanoke Police Department, Bridging the Gap Community Services, Woodlands Senior Center is going to be providing this service, as well as the Wadley Town Hall and the Wedowee Senior Center. You see the phone numbers there on the screen. You can go check Dr. Don's news feed. All the information to all these locations can be found there as well. And if you need a place to get in and out of the cold, these fine folks will accommodate you throughout this cold period. And folks, I really think north of I-85, the bigger story here is the duration of the cold air, not the winter precipitation that we may or may not see today. I mean, it is absolutely possible that most of you across East Alabama and West Georgia won't see much of anything at all today. This is certainly not going to be, big, huge snowman making snowfall. It's going to be a nuisance. It's going to be an inconvenience type snow, unfortunately, and it's not going to go anywhere because our temperatures are just going to stay at or below freezing all day long today, tonight, and probably all day, or for at least most of the day tomorrow. We may get some relief later on tomorrow afternoon. So that's the latest on the potential for some winter weather across East Alabama and West Georgia for today. So let's go ahead and take a look at your current conditions at the venue at 5 Points Farms. Currently 22 degrees outside. That wind is gusting out of the north at 9 to 10 miles per hour, which is making it feel down into the teens at times. The humidity is at 51%. Again, we need that humidity level to get up there in the 90% range to get snow to make it to the ground. Barometric pressure is 30.57. Dew point is at 6. Preferably it gets closer to the temperature, but it doesn't have to be. The high temperature yesterday, how about this? 31.4 degrees. The sky is currently cloudy. Sunrise at 6:44 this morning, and the sun sets at 5:03 p.m. this afternoon. So we anticipate a mostly cloudy day, and we may get some snow showers or some light snow in here later on this afternoon. And there could be some travel problems across those counties you see there on your screen. Places like Roanoke, which will hit 30 degrees this afternoon. LaGrange may be at 33. It all depends. If we've got snow falling, you won't get above 32. Same for Alexander City, Dadeville, Auburn, Pine Mountain. And up there to the north, Ranburne will make it to 28 this afternoon. Anniston will make it to 29. And Lineville will top out at 30 degrees. There's your 6-day forecast from the Alpha Weather Center. Jamie Dukas, your local Alpha agent for today, will give you a 40% chance of afternoon snow. Again, most locations will be looking at just a dusting up to a half to 3/4 of an inch. The further south you go, the greater those snow totals may be. And by the time you get down into southern Lee County, Beauregard, you could be approaching that 1.5 to 2 inch snowfall accumulation. And certainly if you're going to be traveling down into southeast Alabama or northwest Florida, you're going to see 3 to 4 inches of snow possible there, especially along the I-10 corridor in Florida. I would highly suggest you not travel in that direction today. Travel down there is going to be pretty rough. So 30 degrees your high this afternoon, down to 12 for your overnight low tonight. Ouch. On Wednesday, we're going back to sunshine, and we may make it a few degrees above 32, but again, it depends on how much snowpack we have on the ground. Some locations may not get above 32 on Wednesday, but the good news is it'll be sunny, so some radiational heating will take place, which will help melt some of that snow. If we have a large snowpack on the ground, there could be some residual runoff tomorrow evening, which could refreeze as we're headed down to 19 for Wednesday night. So black ice could be a problem on Thursday morning. We'll just have to wait and see. But on Thursday, some nice thawing will take place. We will get up into the low 40s on Thursday, though we drop back into the low 20s on Thursday night. Friday, sunny, 41, 22. Saturday, sunny, 50. So that'll get rid of everything by that time. Down to 29 on Saturday night. And our next storm system in here on Sunday. Right now, we're calling for a 20% chance of rain on Sunday afternoon. 40% chance of rain Sunday night with a high of 52. And we stay well above freezing on Sunday night, so no winter weather issues anticipated on your Sunday evening. All right, so here's the Southern Union State Community College Live Doppler HD radar. This is what everybody wants to see this morning, and we're showing you snow falling from Greenville, South Carolina, back through Atlanta, all the way down the I-20 corridor, snow moving into East Alabama and West Georgia, snowing across the upper levels of the atmosphere in Montgomery, back into southwest Alabama, across central and southern Mississippi, and then down into Louisiana. Now, everything you see in Georgia and, for the most part, Alabama, not making it to the ground at this hour. That's because of the humidity levels only at about 50% across Alabama. So we're only about halfway there. We need to get close to 100% humidity to get this snow all the way to the ground. If you look into southern Mississippi, you see some blue. Louisiana, you see blue. Now, where you're seeing those shades of blue, that is most likely making it to the ground. But across Alabama, it's just still too dry. Now, we did see some reports of some snow flurries or flakes in the Montgomery area about an hour ago. And that is possible if I rock the radar back and forth right there. If you look real close, there was some blue showing up just south of I-85 and just east of Montgomery, probably out there around Pike Road. We did have one little echo return right there that was probably making it to the ground. But for the most part, you'll see, and I'll pull this up, across East Alabama and West Georgia, there is no blue anywhere up there. So this is just not making it to the ground just yet. I think maybe as we get into the afternoon hours, some of the heavier echo returns will make it up into East Alabama and West Georgia. But again, we're not looking at massive amounts of snow up here between I-20 and I-85. Those amounts will be south of the I-85 corridor where the air is not quite as dry. You've heard this before. It's too cold to snow. Well, there is some validity to that statement. It's not necessarily the temperature that's too cold, but when you get this cold, the air is going to be extremely dry, and that air just evaporates and eats up all that moisture as the snow falls through the upper levels of the atmosphere, and that's what we're seeing out there this morning across a good chunk of the southeastern United States.
This has been your primetime forecast for East Alabama and West Georgia. From the Alpha Weather Center, powered by Fincher Fence, Estate Masters, Southern Union State Community College, the venue at 5 Points Farms and Boondocks Barbecue and Creamery, Dr. Don's Weather is supported by the Randolph County Commission, East Alabama Waste, Southern Auction Solutions, Genesis Weight Clinic, Jimmy's.
I didn't mean to do that. I hit the wrong button. I absolutely hit the wrong button. But anyway, I was done, but I did wanted to tell you, folks, just don't expect this to be a major snowstorm across East Alabama and West Georgia. That's not what's going to happen. We've never led you to believe that's what was going to happen. We've been telling you since day one this looked like it was going to be a much better event the further south you go across the southern half of Alabama and northwest Florida, and I really believe that's what we're looking at here today. Some of you won't see a drop of snow today. Others will be pleasantly surprised. There will be surprises out there. There'll be some pockets where you're going to see some good snow. Enjoy what you do get. Don't throw tomatoes at the weather guy if you don't get it. This is the way we do snow in the South. It's extremely hard to forecast, and we really now just have to pull the drapes back and look out the window and see what's going to happen. But I do want you to know any accumulation at all on the roadways today is going to be dangerous. Don't drive on it. We'll keep you updated here on Dr. Don's Weather. Enjoy your Tuesday. Good Lord willing, and the creek don't rise. I'll see you back in here first thing tomorrow morning for another edition of your prime time forecast on Dr. Don's Weather. Let's try this thing again.
This has been your primetime forecast for East Alabama and West Georgia. From the Alpha Weather Center, powered by Fincher Fence, Estate Masters, Southern Union State Community College, the venue at 5 Points Farms and Boondocks Barbecue and Creamery, Dr. Don's Weather is supported by the Randolph County Commission, East Alabama Waste, Southern Auction Solutions, Genesis Weight Clinic, Jimmy Stevens Construction, Anchor Roofing, the Town of Wadley, Auction 431 South, the Salem Auction House, and Bama Diesel Repair. Be sure to like us on Facebook, share us with all of your friends, and subscribe to Dr. Don's Weather on YouTube. We will be back tomorrow morning with another edition of your primetime forecast on Dr. Don's Weather.